Hey, you, this is Sarah Grace, and welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to a special episode as we get to talk about this little shift that's happening here. You may notice that there is new podcast cover art. Hooray, hooray, hooray. That's always exciting. And you may also notice that there is a new podcast title. Yes, indeed, there is a shift happening here. And is it true that I'm really going to leave you in a lurch and never talk about the heroine again? Ooh, you're going to have to hang on to listen. But here's the backstory on why this shift is happening. For years, I have had a pretty major goal in business. And as I've tried to reach this goal, I've decided that the best way to approach getting there was to go what I call undercover, meaning looking behind the scenes of other people's lives who have accomplished that goal to see what those common traits are. What are the commonalities? What are the common collaborations? Like, how did they get there? And to take a real deep dive behind the scenes of people who had accomplished it, to see how they did it, to see if I could model after that to accomplish that same thing in my business. So I went undercover and I made a spreadsheet and I started to look for every possible commonality of things that I could do, things that I could say, people I could meet, things that I could attend, all the things that had to happen in a row to accomplish that goal. And I also, as part of that experience, started to get a glimpse into the behind the scenes personal lives of those who had also accomplished this amazing goal that I had in mind. And what I started to see, it kind of freaked me out. I got to be honest. The more and more that I looked behind the scenes of what it would take to accomplish that goal, the less I wanted to accomplish it. I started to see a commonality of marriages that were really, really suffering, of work hours that were physically debilitating, not to mention mentally. I started to see kids that were no longer connecting with the entrepreneur that had accomplished these things. And I started to see faith that was once strong dwindle. And I started to sit there and say, gosh, I don't want that. Maybe I don't want to accomplish this. Maybe it's not possible. Because when I imagined myself accomplishing this big goal in my business, I wanted to achieve it on my terms. I wanted to show up there and accomplish this goal with my husband in the wings, cheering me on because he was integral in helping me get there. I wanted to accomplish this goal with my kids jumping for joy because they felt that they were part of this victory and they still knew who their mom was. I wanted to be able to accomplish this goal with my faith intact, and not only intact, but thriving. Bottom line, I wanted to achieve it on my terms. I wanted all areas of my life to feel like a victory while aiming to reach that goal. So, what does that kind of woman look like? What is that woman called? And maybe you have felt this. Maybe you have been so in line with the heroine's journey and you're like, yes, I have felt sparked. And yes, I know who I am as a heroine. And yes, I have allies. And yes, I've walked through the gate. And yes, I'm hating the whole moment where I have to go through the journey and like you're resonating so deeply with those experiences. But looming in the back of your mind is, what does this journey do for your whole life, for your relationships, for your faith, for your spirituality, for your physicality? Like, how does it all work together? What does that kind of woman look like? Well, I'm here to tell you, I have discovered her. We are no longer talking about the heroine here. Rather, we are talking about Victress, the Victress Journey. Victress is a woman who is victorious. That is the goal, right? That is the goal, is Victress. So what else is Victress? Really, a Victress is a noun and it's a verb. She is a present tense way of being. So we call her Victress. She's victorious in her business, in her family, in her spirituality, in her physicality. She is victorious. And I got to tell you, I had the coolest experience after I had landed on this word victorious, which is the female version of the word victor. How perfect is that? Hero, heroine, victor, victress. Imagine my excitement when, after I had made the decision to make the shift to Victress, so it was so much more inclusive of the victories we want to have in our lives, that a team member of mine approached me and she said, "Hey, guess what? I was reading President Nelson's talk from last year about letting God prevail." Do you remember that talk? If you've never heard that talk, or if you're not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we believe President Nelson to be a prophet of God. And he issued us an invitation, really an invitation to the world, to let God prevail in our lives. So this team member pointed out that she had been studying that specific talk, and she said, "Do you know what the definition of the word prevail is?" And sheepishly, I said, I don't. I actually don't. I haven't made this connection. Here's the definition of prevail: to prove more powerful than opposing forces, to be victorious. Mic drop from President Nelson, who we believe to be a prophet of God. Extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. So, as I dove deep into what this means to be victress, a woman who is victorious, what it really is a woman who lets God prevail. If your heart is about to jump out of its chest, like mine is right now, let me give you 5 ways in which you can start jumping on board to become victress. These are 5 ways, the victress creed, so to speak, of how we can better become a woman who lets God prevail in our lives. Number 1, we set, maintain, celebrate, and embrace boundaries. That is victress. Number 2, we tell the truth about ourselves and our circumstances. Number 3, we see our victress journey as a gift to our loved ones, not a hindrance. Number 4, we embrace our unique power, our successes, the amazing parts of our life, our beauty and influence, and we invite others to do the same. And last, we stand firm in being unwilling to sacrifice family, faith, physicality, or our prized relationships to achieve greatness. That is a woman who lets God prevail. Victress. This is your official invitation. If what you want and feel called to do seems absolutely impossible, if the road feels too hard and too unpredictable, if you're worried that what you're working for isn't going to be worth the cost, this is your official invitation to victress, to allow the Lord to show his ultimate power, more powerful than any opposing force you may face. Become victress, a woman who allows God to prevail in all areas of her life. It's about to get so good here. More episodes coming soon as we continue the Victress Journey.